on my podcast. Hello, everybody on my YouTube channel and my other channels. I am your host. Y'all know who I am on both my channels. Thank you guys for joining me on this new podcast from darkness to light on Spreaker.com. I am a certified recovery life coach that's all about helping people on their paths, their journeys, and their purpose to a new and better you through self discovery. My goal with this particular recovery podcast channel is to help people to recover from darkness. We all have been through our share of dark situations, and some of the situations we've managed to get out of, others not so much. Some of us got out of darkness unscathed, some of us got out of darkness and we were traumatized. If you guys like the commentary, you can go to Spreaker.com/ my name, and you'll be able to see all my podcasts. And on my actual podcast, my name on there is this one is going to be Coach TJ. So I hope you guys are doing well in this episode. So this is my podcast as far as my coaching podcast. So I hope you guys will enjoy this first episode. Now, is it going to be easy about what I'm getting ready to talk about today? No, it's not. The reason I'm not showing myself because I just don't feel like it today. As I told y'all on my YouTube channel and my other channel, I'm going through a stomach damage that, if it gets infected, can cause cancer. So today I had some macaroni and cheese, and it didn't do so well for my stomach. So I can't eat that. So I'm trying to figure out what I can and cannot eat. So a lot of dairy will definitely be out without question. It'll be primarily just fruits and vegetables. Now I probably can eat bread. Bread is not too bad. But eating a lot of cheese is not gonna be good for me. So I'm getting ready to throw all this cheese out because I can't do nothing with it. So it's gonna be not easy eating stuff without cheese, but I have to because of my stomach. I did do a little bit of exercise, a little bit of squats, and a little bit of just moving around and doing my own thing and just being silly. But it definitely was hard. When you exercise after not exercising for a very long time, for whatever the reason may be, it's not going to be easy. When it comes to darkness to light, I basically put that with Alice in Wonderland. How Alice followed the rabbit down the rabbit hole, and she ended up in Wonderland and in this place that seemed beautiful at first and full of light. And then she ended up meeting the Mad Hatter, and then it went to darkness. And then she ended up meeting the Queen of Hearts, who wanted to off her head. And then it really went into darkness. And if it wasn't for the Cheshire Cat, she probably wouldn't have got out in the first place. So when it comes to this particular podcast, that's who I am. I am the Cheshire Cat. Now I'm going to tell y'all now, I'm not editing not one of these videos or podcasts. The reason why is because I'm trying to learn from the mistakes that I make while doing them to become better. I don't hide anything. I don't have my flaws, my imperfections, nothing. So this one, as far as this particular podcast and this particular YouTube channel, is all about helping people to get out of darkness, helping people to figure out how you got in darkness in the first place and how you find yourself to light. So it's not just about the blame game, because as a life coach, I cannot blame anybody for anything that they do. For example, if you're a drug addict, that is your darkness, and it's about figuring out how you got on drugs in the first place, how you became an alcoholic, how did you end up becoming a single mom, how did you end up divorced, how did you end up with a venereal disease, how did you end up with HIV, how did you end up broke, how did you end up lonely. So this pretty much goes into how these things happen to you. So the reason why how is so important on this particular podcast is because of the fact we have to figure out how you got there before we ask the question of why you got there. So how you got there is going to determine why you got there. So it's really the how and why that are the two most important when it comes to recovery. And then it's also who, it's also when, and it's also what happened. So all who, what, when, why, and how is very important. Now, when it comes down to darkness, darkness can be a positive thing or it can be a negative thing. Now, we always associate darkness and loneliness to something that is negative, but I'm learning now through recovery that loneliness and darkness can actually be a positive thing. So, what we're going to talk about is loneliness. And we're going to talk about how loneliness can be a good or a bad thing when it comes to darkness. So, when it comes to recovery, darkness is one of the things that you're going to be dealing with when it comes to recovery. You're going to be going through a period of darkness. Now, through this darkness, that means that you right now have a situation that has happened to you, whether it's trauma, whether it's depression or anxiety, illnesses, whether it's diseases, whether it is you being in jail, drugs, alcohol, codependency, whether it's spiritual, whether it's mental, psychological, whether it's emotional, whether it's spiritual, whether it's family issues, friend issues, men and women that you deal with, romantically issues, job issues, or people you just don't know. But either way, you will be going through a period of loneliness. Now, the way I'm going to go about this particular episode, because I'm going to do something a little different, because I'm right now in the period of loneliness. And I've been in a period of loneliness for a very long time. Now, at first, it was scary. I'm not going to lie to you. It was very scary being alone. It was very scary when I didn't have nobody to talk to. My phone wasn't ringing. And I was like, what in the world is wrong with me? Why is it that I am alone? But then I realized something. God put me into loneliness. God pulled me away from everybody and everything, because if God wouldn't have done that, I probably would be unalive right now. God took me away because sometimes God will make you realize that the people around you don't exactly appreciate or value you. Now, as somebody that had an addiction to being a people pleaser and had an addiction to being a seat filler, Captain Save-A-Ho, and a Build-A-Bear and a Build-A-Doll, I'm here to tell you that that addiction is real. So I specialize in people pleasing addiction. And you're sitting up here giving up everything for people that ain't worth you. So we're going to talk about loneliness from a spiritual perspective when it comes to loneliness. Because like I said, I was listening to something today, and it was about a woman that was talking about how she had given herself to God, and she decided that she was not going to be out here anymore, being out here when it comes down to, being a part of the world. Now, the reason this is so important, the reason why this matters so much, is because of the fact that when it comes to being lonely, it is not an easy thing when it comes to being alone. But society makes it seem like there is something wrong with you being alone. There is something wrong with you not having friends, not being married, not having any type of relationships unless you choose to have them. Well, based upon what I've learned in the church, and when it comes to loneliness spiritually, it's a completely different monster. Now, God is not saying that you have to be alone all the time, but you do need to have some time for yourself. And you do need to have some time to be alone with Him, which is a higher power. Now, I'm going to say the word God because God is what I grew up on from my grandmother. And she's no longer here. She has Alzheimer's. So she is, no matter what, I'm going to always say the word God because that's what she raised me on. Now, when it comes to giving your life completely to God, that is not an easy decision. You pretty much have to go out into the world, and then once you go out into the world, one day you just gonna be like, you know what, I can't do this no more. It's just like when you decide to be intimate with somebody, and then all of a sudden you just like, I can't do this, and you stop. Same thing. One day you just wake up and say you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired of society standards, and you just don't want no parts of it no more. It's like one day you may say, I don't want to do drugs no more. I don't want to do alcohol no more. I don't want to be codependent. I don't want to be gambling no more. I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. I don't want to, raise kids anymore. That's what that means. Now, a lot of people want to be lonely because they want to go out here and do what they want to do. They want to hang out, they want to party, but they're not alone. But yet you're saying you want to be single, but you're single, but you're going out with your girlfriends every weekend. So technically you're not single. A lot of people are sitting up here saying, oh, I want to be single. I want to be able to date who I want to. That's not being single. I need people to understand that's not being single. Being single means you're alone. That means you're doing everything yourself by yourself without anybody's help whatsoever. Okay? I need to make sure I clarify that. A lot of y'all are saying things that make absolutely no sense. Loneliness is not easy. For any of y'all who think loneliness is easy, it is not. Loneliness is hard because you're doing everything by yourself. You're building everything by yourself. You're handling everything on your own, and you have nobody to help you. Now, when it comes down to bringing people in your life, it's about bringing them as a need. Do I need this person? Not do I want them, do I need this person? Now, when it comes to being pulled into isolation, being pulled into hibernation, and being pulled into a cocoon stage, is basically means that just like a butterfly goes into a cocoon, you do the exact same thing. And when a caterpillar goes into a cocoon, it goes into isolation. Well, guess what? We all have periods where we go into isolation. You got people that disappear from social media and gone for 6 months, and everybody's like, where'd the person go? They went into an isolation period. They went into a cocoon and a, hibernation stage. It means that they're focused on other things. It does not mean that something is wrong with them because for 6 months they decided to take a break from social media to do something else. But for the rest of y'all think something ain't right because you be like, why in the world this person's up and leave? Because of their sanity. Now, for some people, they spent their whole lives being people pleasers. They spent their whole lives trying to make everybody else happy except themselves. You got all these people that's sitting there lowering themselves to be the best version of themselves for other people, but yet they're not being the best version of themselves. You have a lot of people that don't do for other people what they do for them. You have a lot of people that's sitting up here giving up everything for people that ain't even worth them, that ain't never gonna do the same. Yeah, all these people sitting in prison right now for some of the most dumbest things, but that's a whole nother conversation. So when it comes to loneliness, it doesn't mean that it has to be a bad thing. When you're alone, that means you should be working on yourself. You should be healing yourself. You should be going back and looking at your past experiences to figure out how you got there. This is when you're taking the time to be by yourself to figure out what your purpose is, what your path is, and what your journey is to a new and better you. And you can't do that around a bunch of people. It's just like when it comes to therapists. Therapist's job is to listen to you and try to give you the best advice, but it doesn't mean everybody gonna take it. Now, when it comes to a life coach, it's all about solutions. So I'll give you a good example. It was somebody that was talking about Cassie's situation, And this person was married, messing around with a married man and trying to judge Cassie. And I said, how are you going to judge Cassie when you're doing the exact same thing? So the answer is no. So at the end of the day, when people who are truly recovered, number one, they don't deal with people unless it's a need. Do I really need this person in my life? Do I really want to deal with all that chaos and all that godforsaken destruction? So let me talk about me, for example, and where I'm at right now from where I was. Right now, I have been alone now for almost about 8 years. And I did date two dudes in between that time, but neither one of them was worth me. I remember one night I was intimate with one of them, and I ended up feeling I couldn't breathe. And that's when I realized about them soul ties and about the fact that people are inseminating in you something that basically you can't get rid of. I had one of my exes put a godforsaken spell on me to where I would never date. So it was crazy when I found out. But at the end of the day, what I had to do to get rid of that was not easy. So what I will say is when it comes to getting rid of a spell, especially a person no longer here, it takes time. And I do mean a lot of time. So the fact that you got people out here that can't understand why people are introverts. A lot of people are introverts because they are now becoming one with God. God is their best friend. God is their husband. God is the person that's guiding them as far as what direction they need to go. These are people that are not following man's standards, they're following God's standards. These are people that are like, if I choose to deal with people, then I'll deal with them. If I don't, oh well. These are people that if you walk out, they don't care. They don't care if you stay, they don't care if you go. These are people that if you want to walk out the door, by all means, walk out of it. These are the ones that are not interested in just having sex with random people. These are people that are actually sitting here like, look, you know what? I'm not going to sit up here and go through this and do all this nonsense. I'm not interested in none of that. I'm just not. So when it comes down to being the person that you are, you're worrying about the wrong thing that don't matter. So what I will say is you got to be very careful nowadays because you don't know who you can trust and who you can't. I saw a skit where this girl took $2,000 of her girl's money and went and bought Nicki Minaj tickets. When I tell you that other girl was pissed off because she was trying to get a car and gave her the money to hold on to it, and yeah, she spent ain't no telling how much money that girl spent. So at the end of the day, I don't be understanding how in the world it is that you got people that's just so dang on trifling. They just trifle. So loneliness is one of the most hardest things to deal with. Sitting with yourself, looking yourself in the mirror, taking off all the bells and whistles and having to accept the real version of yourself is not easy. And that's what darkness to light is going to do. Darkness is going to make you have to face the real version of yourself, whether you want to face it or not. You're going to have to deal with it, whether you want to or whether you don't. So, so it just is what it is. So when it comes down to loneliness, maybe just maybe the reason you're alone is because you're not supposed to be out there and being a part of society in the first place. So let me share my screen when I talk about these scriptures that talk about loneliness. Give me 1 second. Now it says loneliness is common if isolation experience. Loneliness is a unique experience for everyone. It can stem from various circumstances such as loss of loved one, difficult breakup, moving to a new city, personal insecurities that leave you feeling isolated. It's important to recognize that it isn't a one size fit all solution for overcoming loneliness. If you find yourself unsure on how to find support during this season, the Park Church, this is a church, so they've outlined a few simple ways to reduce loneliness and your feelings. So this says spend time alone with God. The encouraging news is God's own perfect son Jesus knows what it feels like to be lonely. John 16:32. He was betrayed by his closest friends, Matthew 26:21 and John 18:27. Even forsaken by heaven's his heavenly Father when he became sin for us all. So this is telling you how when you are alone, you're not alone because something is wrong with you. You're not alone because nobody likes you. You're alone because God put you there to protect you from harm, to protect you from the people I just mentioned. So I'm sorry, I'm just I'm getting tired. But anyway, loneliness is something that basically people don't understand. But let's get into it. Let me go back up a little bit. It says, encouraging news is God's perfect son, Jesus, knows what it feels like to be lonely. John 16:32. He was betrayed by his closest friends, Matthew 26:21, John 18:27, even forsaken by his heavenly Father who became sin for us, Matthew 27:46. Because Jesus is the most familiar with our emotional suffering, he is the ultimate source of comfort because our tuning everyone away or anything for to ease the pain of loneliness, it is important to spend time with your Savior and friends. He'll never leave or forsake you, so you're truly never alone. Jesus the only not only sympathizes with our loneliness, but he also promises to destroy it. Revelations 21:4. When you put our faith in Jesus, when we put our faith in Jesus, we become a part of his family and can look forward to an eternity with him, free from pain and suffering. So I'm just gonna say it like this here. There is nothing out there in the secular world for me. It ain't nothing out there. And I already know it's not gonna be easy to give my life completely to God because everybody named mama gonna be trying to attack me. And that's normally what happens when people give their life to God, they end up getting attacked for absolutely no reason at all. So the fact that you got people out here trying to make people feel bad because they're choosing not to get married, not to be around negative people, they just rather do something else. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, this says Psalms 34:18 tells us that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are caused a crush of spirit. So you have Psalms 25:16-17. The writer gives us a prayer to a to God in time of loneliness. I am lonely and afflicted. Relieve the trouble of my heart and free me from my anguish. So there are Bible scriptures about loneliness and and the importance of being alone. It says Isaiah 41:10 reads, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God, and I will strengthen you. I will help you, and I will withhold I will uphold you with my righteous hand. No, I hold you up with my vicious right hand. Yeah, I'm just trying to read this. So when it comes down to being alone, biblically, you're not alone. I don't care if everybody walk out your life, you are not alone. Now, is it easy being alone? No. But the reason you're alone is because God has something in store for you, and all you gotta do is sit there and sit, wait, and be patient. Once you sit still and get everything situated, then you'll see the reaction. So I get the fact for some of y'all think that you gotta have a whole bunch of people around you, like you gotta sit up here and be around all these people when in all actuality, that's not the case. So let's look at what does God promise about loneliness. It says, he heals the broken heart and binds up their wounds. Psalms 147:3. Sometimes it's a broken heart that leaves you feeling lonely. But God promises to heal the wounds and hold you close to Him. Then it also says, how do you deal with loneliness biblically? Here are some suggestions for you to try this week. Cultivate your relationship with the Lord. Call a friend or a family member. Get out the house. Change your routine. Attend church and join a church small group. Be a friend to make a friend. Try again. Realize loneliness is a choice, and it is. Now, everybody says loneliness is a choice. Not really. Sometimes you're alone because God is pulling you out of situations you shouldn't be involved in. So sometimes it's not always a choice. But when it comes to remaining into it, then yes, it can be a choice. Now, how did Jesus deal with loneliness? Luke 5:16. Jesus withdrew into a lonely place and he prayed. True, Christ may not have been lonely, but just withdrawn into a lonely place. However, so let's see what else they got. Why is loneliness a gift from God? Now, it also says that, true, Christ may not have been lonely. Let's see. But just withdrew from a lonely place. However, the same way his lonely place provided a place of hope for him, the loneliness you sometimes feel can be promoted positive change in your life. So I'm trying to think. It says, why is loneliness a gift from God? Loneliness leads to comparison. God does not acknowledge our loneliness. He promises to do something beautiful with it. Those of us who desert hearts are promised spring of water wells that will be taken care of. So, like I said, at the end of the day, like I said, being one with God is very important. Because once you alone with God, God gonna make you see a lot of things that you are not gonna be ready to handle. It's just like when somebody says, I want to see things the way God sees it, take them somebody who know. Honey, that is not a joke. Seeing things in the eyes of Jesus, in the eyes of God, in the eyes of the Holy Spirit. I'm telling you, it's a lot. And when I tell you, you're going to get what you ask for, you're going to get what you ask for. And when you do, a lot of y'all ain't going to be able to handle it. I'm just telling you. So when they come down to it, when you start seeing things for what they are, not what you want them to be, when you stop looking at the illusion of something and looking at the way people are saying whatever and doing whatever to get what they want, your whole perspective gonna be changing because now you're gonna pick and choose who you choose to deal with, and there's a particular reason why. So it's no different than that. So all I will say is that when it comes to loneliness, it ain't easy. It's a lot of work that goes into it. It's a whole lot that we have to deal with. So that's the way it go. But it doesn't mean that I'm not still looking for people to want to do my to take care of me while I'm, you know. So like I said, when it comes down to loneliness, loneliness can be a good or a bad thing. So when it comes to Psalms and when it comes to loneliness, Psalms 34:18 tells us the Lord is close to so all I'm saying to y'all is loneliness is not as bad as you think it is. It really ain't. So I want to go more in detail in these through this particular season because a lot of y'all are so afraid to be alone, but yet being with people is no better. Matter of fact, it's worse being with people than it is being alone because you can't hurt yourself unless you commit suicide. But other than that, you can't hurt yourself when it comes to things that's impacting and affecting you. You're not going to allow anything to impact and affect you because of the fact the consequences, repercussions, of karma. So this is what it says as far as Psalms 34:18. The Lord chooses to the broken heart and save those who are crushed in spirit. Psalms 25:16-17. The writer gives us a prayer to God at the time of loneliness. I am lonely and afflicted. Relieve the troubles in my heart and free me from my anguish. So there are scriptures that have a lot to do with loneliness, and this is what the prophet said about loneliness. Is Sarah in congressions is a 27 times more mysterious than Sarah performed individually. It says Buckham and Muslim. One of the additional benefits is that it helps alleviate loneliness as you get out of the house, meet others on a regular basis, and potentially up to 5 times a day. Now, I need people to understand that the way this Bible was is not the way today's society is. Mind you, the way this society was back then is completely different to today's society because now you have a lot of people, as soon as they see the money and the cars and the clout, that's the only reason they're around you. They're not around you because they genuinely like you or they genuinely want to be your friend. They're around you about because of what you have. Now it says, why is being alone a blessing? Loneliness provides the opportunity for you to examine your heart, to explore the hidden shadows, and to shine light on places that you've never explored before. Proverbs 4:23 says, keep your heart with all vigilance, from it flows the string of life. That way we live, start, no, the way we live starts with the heart. And that's true. So the fact that you're letting people affect your heart, a lot of y'all don't know how to just sit still. Y'all don't know how to just let things happen. With negativity, all you can do is just sit still and go through it. You don't have to fight negativity unless negativity literally puts its hands on you. So it's just like when you come home and you find all your stuff's gone. The first thing y'all want to do is panic, not understanding that maybe, just maybe, that negative person taking that thing basically means something better is coming in. Because if you have renter's insurance, guess what? You're getting a new TV. Guess what? You're getting a brand new PlayStation. So at the end of the day, you ain't doing them but getting new stuff. The only time it's an issue is if you're a gamer. That's when it becomes an issue. But if you have a hard drive and everything's on your hard drive, then you ain't gonna miss nothing. So at the end of the day, that's why I say if you're a person that's a gamer, you better make sure you hide your PlayStation. That way they can't find it. So at the end of the day, loneliness is not easy, but it's worth it when you see the fact that you're able to heal and you're able to figure things out about yourself. You get to know yourself. You get to see what you can and cannot do without nobody. So that way when you bring somebody in your world, they're there for whatever the purpose is that you need them for. So that's why when people say, I want somebody to take care of me, no, you're a child. You're not a child, you're an adult. The only person that I am taking care of in that manner, as far as financially, is my child. That is it. Or my parents. Other than that, when it comes to a man, no. I will do things for you, meaning that I don't mind for your birthday, doing something for your birthday or our anniversary. But as far as me sitting up here taking care of you like you're a child, that's just not happening. Number one. Number two, I'm not lowering myself to be with anybody because I just ain't doing it. I'm not lowering myself for people to take advantage of me. And in this society, it is too many people taking advantage of people. It is too many people bamboozling and leading people astray and lying to people. They really are. They're sitting up there lying. So that's the reason I say when it comes to me, no. We ain't doing that. What does John 16:32 say? Behold, the hour is coming. Indeed, it has come when you will be scattered each to his own home, will leave me alone, and yet I'm not alone. For the Father is with me. So I don't care how many people walk out. God gonna be with me even when y'all walk out. And so this young lady that was talking about giving her life completely to Christ and basically living based upon the Holy Spirit and letting the Holy Spirit lead her life, it touched my spirit when she said that because I'm going through the same thing. I am not trying to be a part of the secular world no more. It is to the point that I don't even like a lot of secular music. I don't even like, doing certain things that go against what God is telling me to do. So, for example, when it comes to having sex, I don't even want to do that no more unless I'm married. And then when you reach a certain age and you're like, do I really want kids? Do I really want this? Do I really want to bring a child into the world and end up being a single mother? This is when you start really thinking about things. When you're younger, you're not breaking things down. You're not researching. You're not verifying whether you should be doing this or not. You're going off your feelings. It's not until you get about 35, 40 years old that you come to that realization. Some of us, it took a little bit longer. But at the end of the day, yes, you will end up distancing yourself from the things that are familiar, the things that hurt you, the things that have caused you harm, the things that cause depression. Yes, you will be dealing with that. Absolutely. You will absolutely be dealing with it. And that's really okay. So when it comes to being alone, is it easy? No. But there are certain journeys nobody can go with you on except the people that can help you. So, for example, as a life coach, I always say to clients that, look, you can't bring your family into this because your family have nothing to do with it. When you in rehab, ain't nobody else there except you and the people in rehab. So the only ones that will be helping you are the ones that you need. And that's why I say it's not about a want, it's about a need. So if you're someone that doesn't want to pay all the bills by yourself and you want to get married because you don't want to pay the bills all by yourself, because you don't want to be alone, you do want a companion, then by all means, get married. But if you're getting married just because you want somebody to take care of you like a 2-year-old, but then you still want to do what you want to do and you still want to disrespect that person, then absolutely not. No, I am not taking care of grown people. I'm just not. Because when I was doing that, it wasn't reciprocated and it wasn't appreciated. Not only that, you have a lot of people that's not going to give you what you gave them. They're not going to do for you what you do for them. So even though you're out here going to bat for them, even though you're going jumping over hoops for them, they're not going to do it for you. You have a lot of people that have committed crimes that's now sitting in prison right now. Prison. Sitting in prison as a first-time offender because they did something, following other people, not understanding you got to put yourself first. It come a time where when it comes to dealing with people, you got to decide if what these people are asking you to do, is it worth it? A lot of y'all will keep people around you that are not good for you. It's just like a bunch of dudes sitting in jail because one man got caught and he took everybody else down with him. Y'all gotta understand with negative people, if you do anything negative with you, I promise you they're gonna take you down with them. I promise you they're gonna let you take the fall. They're gonna have you out here purity going to jail the rest of your life. So I'll give you a good example of this. You had people out here that was sitting up here, and I'll use a scenario. Let's say from For My Man and the Investigative Channel. I'm gonna use some cases that basically y'all will understand my point in this. You have a situation where you have a woman that meets a man that's an artist. She gets married. She has 3 kids by that man. And how the case started off was the woman, they had a tip that they were going to be drugs at the places where you go and you pick up stuff and shipping from a shipping yard. So the woman got out the car, looked around. I don't know why she did that. Looked around, noticed something ain't right, went in there, said she forgot something, said never mind, and walked back out. Well, when the police asked who she was, the guy told her exactly who she was. So they decided they were going to listen to her phone calls. So they got a chance to tap her phone. So when they tapped her phone, they heard a conversation between her and her, husband. So they were having conversations. He was telling her, all this other stuff. Now, what ended up happening was when she went to go drop off something, she ended up getting locked up, her and the other dude. Well, the other dude ended up telling not only on her, but also on him. So now they're coming to her saying, look, we can reduce your time. All we need to know is who this man is and what the world is going on. She would not say 2 words and did not say anything the whole entire time. So then they started getting all these other people because this person snitched on everybody. Now, mind you, they both got caught, but yet the one that basically was also there is the one snitching on everybody else. Next thing you know, a girl came in there who she's friends with, kind of find out she's sleeping with her husband. And so they bring her back saying, look, we're giving you one more time to be able to, tell us what we want to know. She ain't do no such thing. Finally, they caught him. And when I tell you she saw that man, her looks could kill the way she looked at him. So he didn't even call. He didn't even get her a lawyer. He left her in jail. And yet she's being loyal to him. So they finally catch him. They go to court. They get 21 years. So this woman and the husband are going to be away from their kids for 21 years. And I think, both of them got 21 years. Second scenario was a woman that was with a man that was beating her, who said he had a fetish of sleeping with her best friend. Now, mind you, these are 2 different scenarios, 2 different people, 2 different situations, same scenario. Where you have a man going to a woman saying, I want to bring another woman into our relationship, or I want to sexually assault a woman. So they decide to kidnap the friend, and they decide they're going to sexually assault her and then, do whatever it is they're going to do as far as torturing her. So then the first case, the girl says she left something in the house. So the girl comes in. She comes in. Next thing she knows, she can't get out. The dude ends up sexually assaulting her and then unaliving her, and she was pregnant. The second one, thank God, she did not go in the house. When she walked outside, he was in the back seat and put her in the trunk and drove off. Luckily, they weren't driving that fast to where she couldn't get out. The trunk was open, thank the Lord. She managed to get out. She had somebody to help her on the highway. Saw her drop. They stopped. They pulled over, and they took her straight to the police. Took her to the hospital, and the police came and they got the girl and the guy, and now they're both in prison. So both situations, they're doing life in prison. What you are willing to do for love is absolutely ridiculous. What y'all are willing to do to be loved, liked, appreciated, valued, wanted, needed, to be part of something, to be validated, to be approved of. So I'm a little lost. So all I can say is this here. There are times you need to be around people, and there are times that you need to be alone. There are times that people can be on the journey with you, that know you, and there are times where they can't help you at all. Okay? So it just depends. So loneliness gives you a time to really learn yourself, to really heal from what you've been going through, to really just be one with God and having God help you through what you're going through, helping you to be the best version of yourself. So that's the whole point of being alone. So being alone can be a good or a bad thing. So God's answer to being alone is He's always there. You may be alone, but you're never alone. He promises never to leave us. If one, if no one else understands, He does. So again, you're not alone. God is with you. So even though everybody else walks out on you, it doesn't mean that you're alone. So, like I said, it's just amazing how people sit there and think, oh, well, if you do this stuff, then something bad gonna happen. Everybody always talking about, well, you shouldn't be alone. I'm gonna break down why they don't want you alone. They don't want you alone because they don't want you to be alone with God, number one. Number two, they don't want you to think. They don't want you to basically figure things out. They don't want you to grow. They don't want you to evolve. And they certainly do not want you to elevate. They certainly do not. So, like I said, it is not easy being alone. But at the same time, I'd rather be alone than be unhappy. Point blank, period. So, a lot of people on this, I don't have a problem being alone. I have no problem with being with anybody, but no. Like I said, you could. Like I said, y'all got to understand there's a balance between loneliness and being around people. There will be times you need to be alone, there'll be times you need to be around people. It just depends because some people just can't help you. So that's just it for that. So, like I said, I wouldn't be worried about anybody else except myself. Because even when you're around people, you need to realize that you're an individual, even though you're in a group. You have to learn to have your own mind and understand the importance of your morals, your values, your principles, ethics. If somebody tell you, oh, by the way, I wouldn't mind doing this. So, all I will say is that loneliness is a part of life. It really is. But being alone is not as bad as y'all think it is. It does get lonely sometimes. And so the reason you shouldn't just jump into another situation because you're going to be devastated. And then you're going to be mad and you're going to be angry, and I just can't have it. So I had to take a minute. So giving your life to God, I'm going to tell you like this here. Loneliness will definitely be a part of that, because when it comes to finding your tribe, it's gonna take some time, and you're not gonna be out looking for nothing. I don't know when the last time I've been on a dating app. You're not going on no dating apps. You're not doing anything that has anything to do with meeting the wrong people. You're not telling nobody what you got. You're not telling nobody what you do. You just handling your business accordingly. And I respect that. So, like I said, when you are a person of God, a lot of people ain't going with you. A lot of people ain't gonna understand. A lot of people gonna be like, "Well, why are you doing this?" Not understanding God is telling you to do it. So even though everybody might not understand, it doesn't mean that you don't. It just means that it's not perfect and it doesn't fit. So, so just some food for thought. So we'll probably go into this particular subject a little bit more as far as loneliness and breaking this down a little bit more. So we will talk about the pros and cons of loneliness and darkness. So we'll talk about the pros of being alone, the pros of not being alone, the pros of being, being in a good place and not being in a good place. But in order for us to solve these problems, we got to figure out why these things are happening. And to do that, we have to have conversations with people. So, with that being said, I am about to go take my butt to bed because I'm tired. It has been a very, very long day. But I just want to tell y'all that being alone is not as bad as you think it is. Being alone is what you make of it. Sometimes you need to be alone before you go back out there in the world because you need to prep yourself on what may happen if such and such happens. You need to prep yourself on the certain things that you don't know. Because y'all don't want to sit here complaining about food. Now that we're saying, no, that's not what it is, all of a sudden now, everybody want to jump on the bandwagon. So, like I said, to each its own. But there are some people that they have no problem being alone. They have no problem being introverts. They have no problem with not being in nobody's business. They have no problem being unproblematic. They have no problem with not wanting to be, paying attention to certain things. And if they do, it's only because they don't want to go through it. So the way people that are godly people that are now going about things a different way, it just means we're not going through what we went through before. So that's what that is. Other than that, you ain't got nothing to worry about. Cause life is what you make it. So there you go. So those are just my thoughts on that. But like I said, is it an easy journey being alone? No. Will you be alone forever? No. It's just you're sitting still and you're just sitting back and observing society and everything that come with it. And every once in a while you might say something to respond to it, but other than that, no. So that's the way I look at this situation. Because I'm going through it now and it's not, there are days I'll be like, I wish I had somebody to talk to. I wish I had a boyfriend. But then I look at everything that happened. I'm like, no, no, I think I'm good on my own. I think I'm good paying my own bills. A lot of people think that people are alone because something's wrong with them. No, what's wrong with them is you, and that's just so. So, with that being said, all I'm gonna say to y'all is there's nothing wrong with being by yourself to figure things out. There's nothing wrong with being by yourself to research things. There's nothing wrong with being by yourself so you can enjoy the fruits of your labor, enjoying your actual blessings. Because a lot of us don't really enjoy our blessings. We're too busy giving it away to people that are not worth us. And nobody's saying that you shouldn't go out there and help people, but at the same time, so anyway, like I said, so I'm going to leave this conversation here. There will be more conversations about loneliness. So we're going to start with darkness before we get to light because there are a lot of scenarios that can relate to darkness. And I definitely want to touch on that. But let me see if I can find something about loneliness when it comes to biblical. Hold on one second. So give me one second. And you know what's funny? The reason why a lot of people don't want you to be alone because they really don't want you to find yourself. So let's go. Now they're talking about overcoming loneliness, but they don't understand that sometimes God can put you in loneliness so you can get yourself together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do some research about loneliness, and we're gonna talk about both sides the loneliness, when it comes to the emptiness, when it comes to the emotional side of being alone. And we're also going to talk about the spiritual side of being alone when it comes to different things. So all I will say is that we all got to learn that being alone can be a good or a bad thing depending on you. So, like I said, I get the fact that for a lot of y'all, being alone is scary. That being alone is scary. That being alone is hard. That being alone makes you feel like you want to commit suicide. Being alone makes you feel like that nobody likes you, nobody accepts you, nobody wants you or needs you. But that's not necessarily true. Being alone can just mean that the world is not meant for you and it ain't meant for you to be out there. That is meant for you to go in a different direction. Sometimes God will pull you away from things that are going well for you just to find out that if you would have stayed in that situation, you probably would have lost it all. It's just like when it comes to gambling and God says, no, don't pick those numbers. You didn't pick those numbers because things could went bad, and you didn't. So all I will say is it's not easy being in these situations. It's not easy, standing on your own 2 feet. It's not easy when you have to fight alone and nobody's by your side to help you through what you're going through. But if you ever seen the invisible picture where God is holding somebody up, and I think it's like the invisible footsteps. I'm trying to remember. Hold on. I'm trying to think if I can find it. So hold on. Okay, it says the invisible doorstep Bible verse. But there is one where there's a picture, and I have to find it. I'm gonna look for it. But it's a picture of a man and a woman on both sides. One is a man, the other one is a woman, and there's an invisible being holding that person up. So at the end of the day, like I said, loneliness is not easy. Loneliness can be very difficult. But like I said, it's worth it when you see the end result. But at the same time, if you got to lose yourself in order to be with other people, if you got to do all these things negative just to get somebody like you, then they're not worth it. It really ain't. And somebody's consequence, repercussion, karma impacts you and they don't care about it, then that's a whole nother monster. So, like I said, be very wary when you bring people to your world because you don't know who these people are and how they're going to impact your life. So, like I said, everything begins and ends with you, and time continues to move even when you don't. So be very mindful of that. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for joining me for this episode. I appreciate y'all. Without y'all, there's no me. I'd be nothing without y'all. So, with that being said, I'm out of here. Y'all have a very beautiful night. And on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to receive notifications of my videos. I appreciate y'all, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye.